Okay, good evening, everybody. We are now starting a new parak. Starting a new parak in the Omud Yomi of the Deer Shul cycle. Parak HaMatzniah. Yeah, parak HaMatzniah now. The 10th parak of Masechet Shabbos. The shir is La'atzlochas La'atzolas Klal Yisrael. And the shir is for the Ilui Neshama of my father Menachem Ben Akiva. And for the Atzolo of my friend Yonasan Osher Yehuda Ben Michal. He's a guy that was jailed in Ireland. The whole story is a moyel. They jailed him in Ireland. Whatever. I'll tell you later. Amatznia says the Eilig Mishnah. Amatznia lezera veledugma velerefua. We're talking again, as we have in the previous prokim. We're talking here about Amatznia, about hotza'a. We're talking about hotza'a. Yeah, the shurim of hotza'a. Amatznia. What happens if a person keeps especially one zera? He keeps one seed, yeah, one seed, one kernel, whatever, of wheat, of barley, of tomato, and his matzniah, he keeps in his house one, only one zera, lezera, either because he wants to be zorea, he cares about it so much that he stores this in his cupboard because he wants later to be zorea, yeah, to sow it in the garden, Veladugma, or he wants to sell it, so he wants to show it to people, yeah, as a sales. No, he wants to maybe sell it, yeah, velerafua, or for health, yeah. He believes that this kind of seed is very healthy for him, so that one seed alone is important for him. Voitzioi b'Shabbos, if he took it out on Shabbos after he stored it like that, yeah, that one zera, chayav b'cholshu is chayav b'kolshu. Chayav b'kolshu means even one zera. Why? Although the shear for zera we said is different. How many? Two. Very good. Five. And by important ones it's two, right? By kishu and luim it's two, and many times it's five, right? It sounds like that's a psak from Rashi. But if you showed chashivus for you, it's important, and you kept one in the house, mimel, if you take it out, you're chayav, even on one. Okay, the seder makes sense. V'chol odom en chayav olov ela kishiuroi. However, other people, let's say you keep that one zera, and it's very important for you, but for me it's not important. So if I took your kernel, yeah, your grain from your house, and I took it out, I'm not chayav. I'm only chayav like the proper shear. How much is a shear? Depends. For eating, gogeres, v'chule v'chule. For color, for dugma, like the small cloth, we've seen many shurim. The regular standard shear, because for the other person it's not important. Chazal v'echnisoy. Now comes the chiddush. Chazal v'echnisoy. Let's say the first person who gives it chashivus, gives it importance by keeping it in his house, by matzniah, he now put it back in his house, and he regretted. Now he's not going to plant it. He originally stored it in his house in order to plant that one seed, yeah, to sow it, or in order to take it out, in order to do some kind of therapeutic thing, some kind of medical thing, and he took it out and he regretted. He didn't do it. He didn't do whatever purpose was there. Once it's back home, automatically we don't say that he's back to square one. And now again, it's important for him. Once he regretted once the chashivus of zera, dugma, or refuah, and he didn't follow those actions, and he put it back in his house, now if he takes it out, he's not chayiv. But he's back to the regular shear of gogeres or whatever. In other words, the default situation is that he's not machshivit. Yeah, once you said, no, I'm not going to sow it, then we're not going to, unless known otherwise, we're not saying, okay, he'll do it tomorrow, unless we know otherwise. Oh, yes, he'll use it for refuah. He's back to square one, back to being considered to be a normal thing. So the Gemara. The Gemara starts with a question. Lama lemitni hamatzniya, litni hamoitzi lezera v'ledugma le'ofuah chay b'cholshu. The Gemara has a question. Why are you saying it in such a strange way? What does the Mishnah say? If I stored something in order to do what? I stored it in my house in order to take it out, one grain, one zera, one kernel, for zera dugma. Why can't you just say, I wouldn't care about the storage. I care about the actual itself, right? What did we say twice already? We said that a person does not invest, doesn't start the tircha, the whole story of zorea with one zera only, right? Usually, in order, if I start the whole planting day, gardening day, I take 5, maybe 2. Okay, thank you very much, says Rashi. But this guy proves the what? His actions prove louder than anything that if he takes it out in order to be matznia, in order, excuse me, to be zorea, dugma, even the one small one, is chayiv. So why do you have to talk about the previous stage? Why do you tell me he kept it, he stored it? Let's say on Tuesday he went to the or on Shabbos he went to the garden. So I don't care about that snow of let's say Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I care about the actual taking out, not about that snow that was there before. Why is that the relevant thing? Omar Abaye, so Abaye says, Abaye says, well, I'll tell you why. Kigoin shetznioi v'shochach lemahitznioi. That's a chiddush. The guy originally stored it for chashivus. He stored it because he cares about that one grain. And that why does he have one grain in his drawer? He's not stam keeping it Michigan. He's doing it because really he wants it for refuah, dugma, zera. But on Shabbos, when he took it out, he forgot why he stored it. Now he's taking it out stam. What do you mean stam? Not in a crazy way. Elamai, for him it's more convenient to keep it instead of the house in Lachish, he keeps it in the house in Dolev, let's say. Whichever reason makes more sense to him. But the hotza'a itself is not for zera. He's not taking it out in order to use it for zera, dugma, or refuah. And originally he kept it with giving a lot of importance. One second. I'll hear you in a second. And the chiddush is as follows. One would argue and say, Betuli batla machshavtoi. In other words, since when you took it out, stam, from one house to the other, you forgot why you kept it in your house. So maybe the machshava is now annulled, because at the moment of Eitzah, you're fully aware that you're taking out zera from one house to the street. But lemaisi, you don't remember why you kept that one kernel for 3-4 days or for a week in your house. Maybe now the machshava is poof. You don't remember, so the machshava is out the window. So therefore, says Rashi, "Enkan lo chashivat machshava setzno, v'lo machshava setzno." You don't have the machshava of I'm storing it because you forgot about that out the window. Cut, finished, and now you take out. You also don't have chashivus because you're not taking it out saying, "Oh, I'm going now to sow that seed. I'm going now to do the refuah. I'm still moving in from my house to the street for convenience reasons. So maybe I'm not going to be chayav or neither or." Because the haitzno, I forgot why I'm mitzniah. And the haitzah itself is not a choshev haitzah. The haitzah is a stam haitzah. Maybe I'll be potter, because really the chashiv is neither here nor there. Nishta here. Kamash Malan comes the Mishnah to be mechadish. Kol ha'oise al das rishoinu oise. Kol ha'oise al das rishoinu oise. What does it mean? Whoever oise, which means if a person is oise what? If a person does something, in other words, the action followed a few, let's say, days or hours of weeks of machshava. He really did store it in the house for zera, dugma, for something choshuv, even though at the time of Eitzah, he doesn't remember. He didn't annul it. He didn't decide, oh, it's nonsense, I don't need it. No, he's parav. He doesn't think either way. So if you're in a parav situation that is following a very active situation, I'm storing this because I want that zera because the doctor told me that's going to save my life. That one zera is a refuah, let's say. Even if the time of it he doesn't remember why he has it there, we still follow the footsteps of the original hatzno. That's why the parak is called a matzniah. The hatzno is choshuv, and the hatzno, and the reason behind it, they remain with him even when he does the hoitzah. Even though at the time of Eitzah, he doesn't remember either way. That's a chiddush. What did you want to say? You okay? Yeah. What did you want to add? Or shall we continue? Omar Shmuel. Now Rav Yehuda b'shem Shmuel is commenting on the Mishnah, and he says, "Mechai roy Rabbi Meir af b'moitzi chito achas lezriya." Rabbi Meir would be mechayev a person who took out one chita, one grain of wheat for zriya, providing that the person really cares about that one zera. Yeah. If I declare to the whole world, I care about one, like you said nicely, I care about one chita, that chita will grow to many, many chitim. One zera for me is important, and therefore I'm chayev. Okay. Zog the more pshita, kol shutnan. What do you mean? You're telling me the Rabbi Meir is machshiv one chita What's the famous rule? Stam Mishnah Rabbi Meir. Stam Mishnah Rabbi Meir. If we say Stam Mishnah Rabbi Meir, then what? Our Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. Our Mishnah said that even a minimum amount of one is chayav. So what's Rabbi Yehuda Mashmul is telling me? There's no chiddush. I can read the Mishnah myself. Answers the Gemara. Listen to how medayik we have to be. Answers the Gemara. No, there is a chiddush. What's a chiddush? Mar detema. One would say kol shehu la'apuki migroi geres. If you carefully read the words of the Mishnah didn't say one grain. I said it to you, and it was right. But Lamais, if you just read the words of the Mishnah said kol shehu. When you say in the Mishnah kol shehu, if you say in the Mishnah kol shehu, what does kol shehu mean? Maybe kol shehu means less than the regular grogeres. We all know the shear. We've seen it in that all the time, right? We see it throughout. We saw it in Daf Ayin, Ayin Vov, we saw it in Daf Pei, Daf Tzadi. Gogeros is always a shear for food, for taking out and for almost all the melachos of food. Gogeros is more, and that's the idea. One would say maybe kol shu means to say, the Tana of the Mishnah say, if you machshiv it, you chayv on less than Gogeros. What's a standard shear below Gogeros in the list of shiurim? Open the Kitzer books, you'll see. Kazais. Because ice is a shear that follows the life of a Jew 24/7, right? Mimela, I would say, it's called show. It's the next one down, but it's not one grain. If you keep one grain, you're crazy. There's a limit to how much you can be koveh according to your own idiosyncrasy, Kamash malan, no. That's why Rabbi Yehuda Mashmol tells us nishtazoi. He says kamash malan that. What's a kamash malan? That even one grain, if a person is machshiv, yichav ready with one grain. Maskif Rabbi Yitzchak brother of Yehuda. Rabbi Yitzchak, the son of Yehuda, is now attacking that. Elameata, according to that, Chishav lohoitzi kol beisoi achinami delo michayv ad mapik lekulei. That's a question. Yeah. In other words, if the person is machshiv, let's say work the other way. You're telling me a person has this, mishigas, one zera he's keeping. Nobody else in the neighborhood does, right? He's storing one zera, and we say, let's be very, individualistic. For him, one zera is enough, so he's chayav chatasonet, right? Nobody else does. Wait a second. So let's go the other way. Let's say a person is only machshiv hotza'a if he's taking out his entire house. Call beisoy. Let's say a person is doing some kind of moving out. He doesn't know it's Shabbos. He thinks it's Friday or Sunday. And for him, if the whole house is not out, it's nothing. Makes sense. He's a Yekish guy. He wants things done quickly. I'm moving from Lachish to Dolev, and therefore I need everything. If one thing in the house is not out, for me, it's not choshev v'tzor. I didn't achieve my purpose. No, could be such a thing. Of course, it's a meshigas. Most people do it bit by bit. Are you going to tell me also, lekula, that such a guy will not be chayev unless he took out the entire house? And if you forgot half a teaspoon, plastic teaspoon, you'll be poto. Because if you go with individual ideas, you go downwards, you can go upwards also. So where's your line? Where do you draw the line? Answers the Gemara, no. Over there, it's too crazy. Over there, it's botladatatzal kolodom. If over there, the person does something which nobody else does, it's insane to say, I'm only machshiv v'tzo if you took out my entire house. It's not derech b'nei odom. Rashi says, "Shiur de choshiv le'inshi choshiv." In other words, some people, the way I understand Rashi, I may be wrong, some people are machshiv one zera. It's not so crazy. For some people, one grain is important. The dietitian, the health dietitian told him that one zera of, the papaya, one zera of star fruit, that will do the trick for you. Okay, so for him, it's choshuv. One zera of, like you said nicely, he wants to plant one tomato. For him, it's very, very choshuv. He'll have a whole plantation eventually. Good. That is not so abnormal. But to say the entire house, that's too crazy. And then we don't follow him. So the shurim only go downwards, not upwards. That's l'choira. That's poshup shot. We are Tzadi Aleph Ud Aleph. In the Nekudotayim. Meaning what? Let's say one person, what's the person's name? Of course, it's Reuben. Reuben is guarding, storing one what? One seed, one kernel for his own chashivus. If he took it out, he's chayav. Shimon, the neighbor, took it out from Reuben's house. It's not chayav. Because for Shimon, it's not choshuv. However, Zok the Gemara Masnisin the Loiker Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Our Mishnah does not follow the opinion which we saw in Daf Ein Hey Ein Vav, does not follow Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The Tanya, what Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar say? Klal Omer Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar told us the rule: Kol she'enu kosher la'atzniya. Anything that's not appropriate to be matzniya. People normally not matzniya. A dead cockroach, people are not matzniya, hopefully, yeah? Vein matzniyin kamoyu, yeah? And also, ein matzniyin kamoyu, it's the shear, it's too small of a shear. The one person decides he wants to keep that dead thing. He wants to be matzniya. For him, it's choshuv. For him, he's making scientific no research about cockroaches. For him, it's choshuv, and he's matzniya that. The other guy, the neighbor Shimon, came and took out the dead insect. Because for Reuven, the owner, it's choshuv, that determines the status of the thing, of the item, and now everyone else will be chayav on that, even other people. Mamish against our Mishnah. It's a very sensible machlokes. In other words, do we say for Reuven that Michigan thing is choshuv, so for him it's choshuv, not for others? Others would be potter, or we say no, he's the owner. He's the one to decide. He's the one who owns it. He's the one who's matzniya it, and therefore for him it's choshuv. I don't know if ownership dafka means by money, but he was matzniya it. He's machshivit, and it's his, one way or the other. He's the one who determined the status. Maybe it became choshuv objectively, not subjectively. So now, even for other people, if they take it out, they're chayav. That's the other opinion. Now we're going to go. Did you see a nice chart? I prepared you all the chart. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, I'm kept busy in the afternoons. No ben Azmanim, we're at war. Amar Rav Nachman. Now, before we continue, a small introduction, which, from experience, sometimes a small introduction takes you a long way. We are now going back to the essence of a hotza'a. We know the melacha's hotza'a consists of two parts, at least, akira and anocha, right? You uproot, you lift from the place of origin, Reshus Yochid or Rabim, either one. You pass it through the border, and then there is hanocha. You lay it, you place it in a new place. You have to have both, right? If you did half, it's only also chetzi. In that over is Sodoraisa, as we saw at the very beginning of the Masechta. Only if you did Akira and Anocha. The question is basically, as I wrote in the title, and I'll show it to our viewers online, how coordinated do Akira and Anocha have to be? In other words, let's say I have different shurim, different machshavas. There's something that differentiates and breaks, but not physically breaks in time, but there's something different essentially between the Akira and the Hanocha, right? Stay there. Then the question is, do they still make two halves of a whole and you chayav? Or do we say, no, they're not coordinated enough, they're not fitting each other enough, and you potter? That's a general question. Now that we know that, we can start playing the game. Let's see. The first, by the way, is not a suffix, not exactly like the chart. The first statement is a statement, not a question. Let's see. A person took out a shir gogeres of what? Whichever food. Let's say gogeres, a fig, shir gogeres lachila, meaning the purpose was achila, right? He's taking gogeres in order to eat. Very good. As he's walking down the street, he says, why should I eat it and waste it? That's foolish. What shall I do? I'll be zoreah. I'll take that gogeres, zoreah in the ground, inami, or the other way around. Lezriya, when he left his house, no, when he did the akira, when he was oiker, he lifted it from the floor in his house. The idea was, I will plant it. Nimlach, he regretted midway, and when he laid it in the ground, it was for achila, for eating. Chayav. Is chayav. There's akira, that's the first case. Is chayav. Why is he chayav? Pshita. Why not? What's the chiddush? The Gemara is asking, what chiddush are you telling me? Zil hocha ika shiura, zil hocha ika shiura, right? Whichever way you look at it, you have shiur, right? Because who cares? If it's for achila, you need gogeres. And if it is for zriya, you have more than enough. Yeah, zriya is even 2 or 5 seeds. Then what's the chiddush? Of course, at the end of the day, I have a kira and a nocha, and both of them follow the good shear. One of them is just right to shear, and one of them is shear plus. The more the better. And says the Gemara, you know what the chiddush is? Mal the tema, the chiddush of that first case of the statement is, one would say, Mal the tema, ba'inan akira v'anocha b'chad machshava. Maybe I need both akira and anocha to be with one purpose, one idea in mind. V'holeka, I have different ideas in mind. Chamash malan, I don't need them. That's the first case. Number one, same size. You see why the time? Let's look at the time. I'm sorry, it's in Hebrew. לכל אחד יש שיעור בפני עצמו, ולא בין אויס המחשבה בקיר והנוחה. As long as the shear is there, that's number one. Yeah, number one in the list. יש לך? Number one is what? Akira hanocha. Who cares? It's different machshavas. You don't have to be so mechuvan. Doesn't have to be like, husband and wife, whatever. Seder, Akira one idea, Hanocha one idea. Each one different ideas, but at the end of the day, the shear is good for both. Again, it doesn't have to be that coordinated. That doesn't have to fit perfectly. Now comes the question. Now start a series of questions. Boy, Rov asks a question. Now the guy took out how much? Listen, half a gogeres in order to be zorea. On that is of itself is chayav. I mean, if he continues. The tofcho, somehow, because of the rain, they say sometimes, or the weather or something, it grew. It grew bigger as he's walking down the street. It's raining and it's now filling up with water. It somehow, like swelled, became bigger somehow, and it became how big? Grogeres. It started the journey as half a grogeres, and the idea was for Zriya. Makes sense. Half a grogeres yuchayev Zriya. It grew bigger in the middle. Magic, magic trick. V'nim l'chalal achila. He says, oh, that's grand. Wow. In the middle of walking down the street, he says, that's a big grogeres. I'm changing my mind. Nimlach, I'm going to eat it. And he placed it with the idea of eating. He placed it in the street, on the park bench, wherever, in order to eat it. What would be the halacha there? Oh, now, what's the question? The question is like this. If you want to tell me, Hosom, in the case in the first case, when he was grogeres both in and out, Hosom admechayev the zilocho ikashiura, v'zilocho ikashiura. In the first case, everything is safe and secure. In both Akira and Hanocha, you have shir. You have a shir, very good. You have a shir in both. You have a shir of grogeres. I don't care about your purpose, and the purpose is also good. Over here, there's a bigger problem. Why? There's more of a short circuit here between the hotza'a and hanocha. Why? At the time of what's a maskana, my friends? What was the end of the story? He laid it on the street bench, on the park bench. What? With the purpose of achila. Excuse me. When you took it out for Akira, potentially you didn't have the end. Soif Maseh b'machshavat chila, we're going to say in 2 nights' time, Friday night, right? You don't have that. When you took out, you didn't even have the shield. It's not just machshava. It's a physical fact. The maskana, the boom, the maki bepatish, the crescendo is what? Achila. I'm laying it down for Achila. And I did not have Shir Achila when I left it to the Akira. So the Akira did not contain the potential Hanocha. The coordination here is doesn't work right. Chorek, we say in Hebrew. It's not really so smooth. Lo mechayev, maybe you're not chayev. Or dilma, or maybe, don't be so philosophical. Kema the ilu ishtik, what's the other way? Maybe you are chayev. Why? Ilu ishtik v'lo chashiv alei. Let's say the guy would have kept quiet, meaning let's say he wouldn't have changed his mind. Let's say the guy would have stayed with the original idea of what? Of zriya, right? V'lo chashiv alei. He didn't change his mind for achila, right? Okay, let's say would have continued the original thought. Now to is chayav, which means basically we don't care about so much coordination between the first and the second half, because in the original hotza'a Akira, when I took out, I had this required shear for zriya. So I just look at that pictures of itself. That picture, had you continued that way, it's like you have 2 mirrors. But at the end of the day, you have a full picture. You have the first half, you have enough for Zriya. And your Machshava was Zriya. And had you continued with Zriya, all would be good. Oh, you change the middle later? So what? The other half is also okay. In other words, the 2 halves are not exactly the same, but at the end of the day, they make one clear picture. That's number 2. Maybe potu, ki en botzo shiur shemaspik lanocha, ulai chayav. Ki im haya nishar machshava rishona, hoy botzo shiur maspik, right? If he would have stayed with the first one, it's enough. And 2 broken halves, they create a whole. I have a kira good for itself and Hanocha good for itself. Here comes number 3. It's like a flow chart. Now comes the third stage. כיוון דאילו ishtik v'lo ychashev alei michayev v'machshava d'zriya, hashtanami michayev, let's opt for the chiyuv. Let's say now that I don't care about the change of mind in the middle. Had I continued the first course of what? The first trajectory of Zriya, I have enough for Zriya. I had Chetzi. So now I'll be chayiv too. If we say this is true, let's ask a new challenge. The Gemara says many times, im tim tzeloimer, if. Let's see the new case. When it got smaller, hoitzi kegurgeres lachila, originally he had a big one, a grogeres, and he took it out, akira, he takes it from his kitchen table. Why? In order to eat it outside. Very nice. Grogeres, achila, is enough. Vitzomko, it shrunk, such a hot day, it shriveled and shrunk in the middle. Yeah, it's hot. Venimlach alei lazriya. Now he has half a grogeres, and he decides, such a small, stingy thing, I'm not going to eat it. I'll plant it, I'll sow it. He's changing his mind the other way. It's now diminishing, it's going down. What would be the halacha? Halacha vadai, in this case, it's worse. Why? Very good. Let's say he would have kept quiet, yeah, on machshava kamaisa, he wouldn't be chayev. Because what happens here? Right? He wanted for achila and then became smaller. Yeah. So now if it got smaller, the first machshava is very disconnected from the second case. Why? You don't even have enough shiur. You took out what? You took out the machshava kamaita. I want this to be what? To be achila. The sheer shrunk. You don't have enough for achila. What you originally wanted to do is not yet a change of mind. You physically changed. You wanted to eat something which is grogeres. It shrunk. Even if that's it, you can't eat it. I mean, you can, but it's not shaykh to achila. It's now became physically different. Or dilma, or maybe we say no. No. And maybe you'd say, no, listen, again, we don't care. Right now, again, it's two halves that are each one functioning separately. Right now, what do I want to do with it? I want to sow it. I'm sowing it, planting it, less than grogeres. It's all I need. Again, each one on his own is good. I took it out in order to eat, had grogeres. Finished. I'm now taking it in the middle. As I'm walking, I'm switching. Yeah, I'm now taking it in order to zorea, less than grogeres. Good. So though the discoordination gets worse and worse, maybe no. At the end of the day, the two halves, each one functions by itself. I don't have to connect the two in any shape or form. The imtim tzilohim ha'ar, the last one, the fourth case, bosar hashta azlinan umichayev. Let's say you want to tell me that really you follow what's happening now. Bosar hashta azlinan umichayev. Yeah, let's say you want to, one second. Let's say you're going to tell me that we don't care and the two halves function each one separately. Which means if right now, lamaskono, what happened at the end of the story? I placed it in the garden in order to plant it, and it was less than a shear. Good. The original thought is so far apart. You don't have the machshava, you don't have the shear of the original. Who cares about the original? Akir and Anocha, each one functions separately. It's two separate compartments, two separate branches of the same store. As long as this makes money, that one makes money, I'm okay. This is Akir, this is Anocha. Now let's assume he's chayev. Because they don't have to be coordinated. Now comes a different question. This question is different to all others. Now this is bizarre. It took out grogeres le'achila. The machshava is achila through and through. Look at the last one, number 4. It's all achila. The machshava, the purpose is all achila, number 4. You took it out in order to eat it, and it was big. It was grogeres. B'tzamka, hot day, it shriveled, became less than grogeres. The chazra v'tovcha, before you placed it with hanocha, it grew again. The rain came, something came, some other weather conditions, and it grew all of a sudden. So what's the problem? It's all good. Why? At the time of Akira, there was Achila, right? And my purpose was Achila, true. And at the time of Hanocha, my purpose is Achila and have Grogeres. Who cares? In the middle, there was a lapse. There was some kind of glitch. Ma'achpat. He went off, then he's back on again. Who cares? Says the Gemara, no. Mahu. The question is as follows. Yesh dichu linyan Shabbos, or in dichu linyan Shabbos teiku. This is a concept that applies to korbanos. And without going to many details, basically, Dichui means, let's say something was suitable for korban, right? Then it was nidche from being a korban. Now, although it's back to being a korban, let's say mum or whichever case is, although it was a good korban when it was makdish, and then it was some issue happened to it temporarily, and now it's back to being okay. In some cases, like mainly in kochim, we don't forgive that. Once it's nidche, it's nidche. Once it was rejected, out. Yeah. So maybe here too. What's going on over here? In this case, he's actually very consistent. He wants eat, 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 eat. He only thinks one track mind, food. Yeah. So when he did the Akira, he wants to eat it and he has a shear. But as he's walking down the street, food, food, food. No, no food, mister. I'm sorry. Can you look at the Gogeres, mister? Your Gogeres is less than Gogeres. So those few seconds or moments, as you're walking between Akira and Anacha, it was Nidche. There is no akira or anocha for something for achila with less than gogeres. That's definitely not coordinated. Zikr not. Let's sharpen it. Let's sharpen it. Let's say it would have stayed small the whole time. Yeah, he took it out of that big gogeres, hashen fat gogeres. He did akira. I want to eat that in the street, in the park, in the picnic. Ben Azmanim. He's walking. Oh, it's shriveled, and he still wants to eat it. And then he puts it down while it's less than gogeres, and he wants to eat it. Avad is not chayav, because eating less than gogeres, the akira, the hanoch is not coordinated with itself. Internal politics. It's not hanocha. And it can't be maniach something for food with less than gogeres. That's against all. What happened here? That almost happened. As you're walking down the street, you had machshava of achila with a piece of gogeres, which is less than gogeres, food less than gogeres. Afterwards, it's all back to one. We don't always say in halacha, sof tov akol tov. Yeah, it ends well, all is well. No. If there was dichu in the middle, that's a question. We don't know. It's a suffix. In other words, we don't know when you have dichui. Do we say like by korbanos, the korban was nidcha, whichever reason there was, and then it's all back? No, we don't always say it's all back. Once nidcha, nidcha. It's all sugya, a lot of sugyas in different places in Shas. Right now, I can't remember of the Gemara, so I don't want to say some examples. It appears many, many times. What? Why, Roy? Why? No, there are no chachamim here. It's an anonymous question. We don't know what to do. So what do we do? Teiku. What's teiku? You learned in school. Tish bitat kushus bias. Really, it's not what it means. The real pshat teiku means you should make it stand. Teiku is just a derech tzachus. Tish bitat kushus bias. That's what we were taught in Kita Dalet. You too probably know. Teiku, right? Tish bitat kushus bias. Yeah. Apparently, as I grew older and maybe wiser, I'm not sure. I learned in many other places that teiku means lemukim. Ta'amid it ze kmo shehu. Leave it as a suffix. Teiku. Yeah? Ta'amid. Leave it as it is until Eliyahu comes. I believe he's going to come very soon. Yeah. Before or after the missiles from Iran. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's it. We don't know what to do. It sounds though, you know the shita of the Rambam. The Rambam has a shita that whenever it says imtim tziloimar, that's the halacha. We have this flow chart here. You have X or Y. If you say Y, then the next topic, right? Then in Y you have Z or A. Z. So that's always halacha. Look at the simonim here. We're always machmir here, the yuchayev. Yeah, basically until the last teiku, we always say that we're machmir and the akir and the anocha don't have to be coordinated. That's what we usually say. That's what we say over here. Okay. I have to finish here. Sorry. So tomorrow. Bo'amine. So remember, tomorrow we're holding Bo'amine Rovim Rav Nachman, the Seder. Yeah. And hopefully we'll do as much as we can. Chaval, Friday and Shabbos, very kishmak amudim. I'd love to give them, but I don't think I can. So I hope to start giving Shir Friday, Shabbos, Bli Neder, maybe from Elul, when I stop with the other Shir. Now it's just too much. We'll talk about it. Elul, we need new chizuk. We'll see then. Okay, Beseder, Hatzlocha, Shkoyach, and we just have to revise. We take the charts home, show it to your wives. Hatzlacha bracha to Torah Anytime viewers, to YouTube, and everybody watches us. Thank you so much, and mainly everyone who comes here. Kol hakavod, you come from a day's work. Kol hakavod.